Hi everyone, I'm Asta Roseway. And I probably should have come in and gotten this set up a little bit earlier, but here we are. I'm a principal research designer, and I'm a little bit of a different animal, as you will soon find out. I am working in the Urban Innovation Initiative. I am a co-founder of DigiGirlz Tech Camp. Does anyone know DigiGirlz? Okay, there's, yeah, a few. Okay, and also co-founder of the Artists in Residence that I currently run today. So just to give you some context, I grew up in an art family. You guys have any art parents out there? Parents that are artists? No? Well, it's a totally different thing. So my background was primarily in fine arts, and then as an act of rebellion, I decided to get into graphic design. So half of my life has been spent in paint and pasteling and sculpture, and the other half of my life has been working through digital design, user experience, and now working in Microsoft Research. So how did I end up in Microsoft Research? I'm sure that's on everyone's minds, right? Yes. A little bit of serendipitousness. I was invited to come in and work on virtual worlds technology. So this was the first ever instantiated Fortnite experience back in late 90s. And they wanted me to build and create virtual environments that people could go around and sort of communicate via avatars. So you have to understand that in 1999, that was kind of bonkers, right? Like we had modems, like you guys look up modems, it's crazy. It took forever to get a signal and the poly count was so heavy. And so they had me come in and work in this space, and honestly, as a graphic designer, I was blown away. And it was a rabbit hole that I just had to go down. And that has been my career ever since. And as you can see, the influence from my art background, my sort of fine arts background, and my sort of user experience has led me to create these hybrid next generation sensing materials, wearables that I've been doing for the last maybe 10 years in research. So anything from talking to your plants, having conversations, the interspecies IoT scenarios, so not about your car talking to your garage, but you talking to a plant, talking to an animal. Those are the futures that I want. So I'm pushing these kind of narratives in addition to using colorimetric sensing to actually change colors to infer that you're being exposed to hazards like CO or maybe some kind of bacteria. So as you can see on the far right, that's colorimetric hair, and that actually works. So if you treat your hair with these strands, you can walk outside and your hair color will change in intensity depending on the intensity of the UV index. So the idea is that we're turning people into sensors for the environment. And Bicklin will be here for lunch. She's our chemist, so you should totally ask her about the hair. So as I said, I work in the Urban Innovation Initiative, and this is very much a V-team effort across research. Everyone here who just can't sleep at night because of climate change is coming together to tackle these really tough problems. And so as you can see, we have different pockets in our efforts, anywhere from data analytics to new sensor and hardware design, to HCI research and user studies. So just, FYI, we're always looking for interns, so look us up. We're awesome. And so our first big project is around air quality. The thing that eludes us about air quality and air pollution is that we just really can't see it until it's really bad. And it affects us every day, and in fact, it's getting worse and worse. So how can we leverage the natural world, especially in chemistry, to start revealing the things that we get exposed to every day? But not only that, how does this sort of drive this sort of hyper-local narrative that I can actually detect things based on where I'm walking, where I'm going? Because all of this stuff is going to inform how we want to drive policy around pollution going forward. So this is EcoBits. This is our first air quality sensor we're deploying. We're actually deploying it this week in a city on the East Coast. So fingers crossed, because we have no idea how that's going to go down. But what we're excited about is not only the data that we're going to get from it, but the experiences we can drive with it. So imagine putting on, an augmented reality headset and looking around the city and seeing the air quality in real time. Those are the kind of scenarios we're excited about. This is our gas tank testing unit. So we're actually pumping in real gases like nitrogen, sulfur dioxides and carbon monoxides, and we're calibrating these things. And then this is just another wave that we're doing. We're exploring ways that we can augment chemical sensing with backscatter technologies to come up with the next wave of low-cost sensors, because we know that these sensors are very expensive for people, for cities. So we're also looking into ways that we can make them cheap and affordable and get them in the hands of everyone. Okay, so how many of you have seen the giant egg out there? Yeah, okay. So this is part of our artist in residence. As a patron of the art, I feel that art actually helps inform us about our humanity and how the technologies we develop actually will impact the world in a realistic way. So Ada is a collaboration that we've done with Jenny Sabin. She is a Dean of Architecture at Cornell. And her shtick is that she has been using next generation materials and technologies to generate these sort of super organic form functions. And the idea is that she's envisioning a world where your dwellings could actually shift through material to fight, for instance, if you've got extreme temperatures, right? Then the walls in your house could sort of shift themselves to accommodate if it's overheated or too cold. So she's very interested in that space. And Ada is really an exploration around AI, right? Because I don't know about you guys are all really super smart, so you probably know what AI is, but for the bulk of people in the world, it's a black box. Nobody understands what it's about. So we wanted to integrate this notion of AI into embedded materials. And we want to have a very transparent conversation about what that means and how that impacts our lives. So I'm going to show you a video. Hopefully it'll work. If it doesn't, I have backup slides. Let's see.
Ada is driven by artificial intelligence. It's a project that smiles back at you. The name comes from Ada Lovelace, one of the first computer programmers, and the linkages between weaving and computation. Knitting is one of the earliest examples of 3D printing, additively layering link by link, row by row material. The project features soft forms that are more feminine versus masculine, and that's a paradigm shift in architecture. The shape of Ada is an ellipsoid. It features a unique exoskeleton composed of a network of fiberglass rods and 3D printed nodes. Every single node is different and has a unique ID attached to it. The interior surface is composed of hundreds of digitally knit cones and cells in a network of webbing. In the center of Ada is a large tensegrity cone composed of a skin of fiber optic cables. Photoluminescent fiber absorbs energy from the lighting and then emits that back as knitted light, as glowing light. But the real magic comes through how people actually engage with it. On the interior soft surface is a whole network of LEDs connected to a network of cameras within the atrium, reading the facial expressions of people in an anonymous way. When Building 99 is very active, the project will be very vibrant and highly transformative. There are moments where it blushes. The hope is that people realize their engagement is actually driving the project, that the project begins to gain its own life in the way that it is interacting with people.
Okay, so as you saw, we just launched Ada on Friday, so we're really excited. We have no idea how this thing is going to evolve, but that's part of the idea, right? That's why we're doing it. We want to see how it evolves and what kind of conversations come up around it. There's Eric. I don't know if you can see him. He's right there. It's true, your neck kind of hurts after a little while, so we'll work on that. And also, we're going to be building an open SDK so that we can enable teams across research to actually upload and plug in their own data sets to explore the way that their data is volumized in sort of a dimensional form. So we're really excited about that. So that's it for me, and this is my alias. You can ping me if you're interested, and I'll stick around a little bit at lunch, but I have to leave at 12:30, so thank you. And questions, totally. Yay. Cool. Questions? Questions?
Hi, that's pretty cool. I have a question about sustainability, right? So the idea of this, I'm assuming, is at large to provide a new way to design cities so that we are able to deal with the climate change, right?
Yeah.
At this scale, it's like more experimental, but can you talk about scalability? Like, what is it needed to, move forward into making cities that kind of look like this, if that's what they need to look like, or, I don't know, your thoughts about that?
Yeah, so I think the biggest one is cost. And manufacturing and construction industries. Cement is really cheap, asphalt's really cheap, right? So as long as those dollars are the newer materials are expensive, it's gonna be hard to justify. Also, 90-degree angles and Cartesian angles are very easy to do. So these curved things are just a lot more complex in nature. And until we have the material systems in place that actually can do it without a lot of effort, I think there's going to be some obstacles there. But I honestly predict in the next 5 or 10 years, we are going to see, at least in emergency housing, these kind of things start to show up. Right? So they've already been taking shipping containers and actually converting those into dwellings. So when there was the earthquake in Japan, they actually took a bunch of cargo freights and they converted them into small apartments. So we may see some stuff like that in the beginning, and then eventually look at the way that big industries like around construction will start to adopt these things. Yeah.
Hi. This is a thought I had when I interacted with the installation, and I thought I'll just tell you.
Yeah, sure.
Is that I thought that it could also be a very interesting exercise in empathy, because one of the ongoing conversations is about how technologists are like in their own ivory towers, and they're like not very engaged with social and political realities. And would it be possible then to use the other data source as a place that is far away in imagination and affect, and transmit that affect onto basically these ivory tower experts and kind of connect these two communities,
I mean,
right?
you could imagine you could have some location, right? And sort of that data set would be feeding, you can see how the town is feeling that day, right?
Like in crisis, or basically, so to generate sort of political relationalities, it would be really cool.
Well, one thing we're going to see with the patterns, we will see any correlations with any sort of social events going on around here, in our world, even weather patterns. There's going to be all kinds of things that are going to be threaded together based on sort of overall, but I love that idea. Thank you. Oh, we got one in the back.
Hi, so I really love this. So something I kept thinking about while listening to your talk is kind of the work on like data literacy and data science, and how people are taking this more like Paulo Freire super critical ways of helping people kind of think about who has your data, who has access to your data, and like what are they doing with your data. And so I'm wondering, And so I'm thinking about like, so yesterday we talked about like what is the future of computing, and we've talked a lot about how a lot of the future of computing is going to require people to have like a sound amount of data literacy in order to be like citizens. And so I'm wondering like the applications of this type of work for like data literacy and kind of like these more social justice type of and equity type of issues.
Yeah, I think this is part of why I'm sort of using the artist in residence as sort of a bit of a Trojan horse to have very candid conversations around the effect that these technologies have in our environments and with all of us combined. So I think that we're open for that. I think that's part of why in the future we'd like to do more calls. So whether we invite, writers or artists or, even political activists to come in and just work with us, but use art as sort of that initial step, So I don't know. We'll see how that evolves. Yeah, thank you. Okay, thanks everyone.